Hey guys, Michael here. Today I bring you another Skyrim build, and this week's build is a modded build. This build is the Hitman, an assassin who's been working all his life for different political organisations in order to gain riches. Now, as you can tell by the length of this video, this is a very detailed build because the backstory is quite developed, and also I'm using the Ordinator perk overhaul, which completely changes the perks gained in Skyrim leveling, so I've got a lot of this video based just for that. So I will move on to the backstory and I hope you enjoy. The Hitman was born in June, a desert city in northern Elsewhere. His upbringing was harsh as his father had been killed by bandits whilst his mother was pregnant, and his mother was unemployed and had to raise him and his brothers and sisters on her own. He lived in a shack which was situated on the outskirts of the city walls, and his family always feared bandits and drug dealers. He was picked on by local kids as he was much more disadvantaged than them and was much weaker due to his malnourished diet. He was beaten up constantly, and this enraged him as he could not do anything about it due to his physical fatigue. I don't know what that means. That was when he turned to theft, and he could steal food, clothes and sometimes weapons from rich nobles and merchants. However, one day whilst trying to steal an emerald from a merchant, the merchant caught the young hitman and sent his son to go after him. His son turned out to be the hitman's bully, and he was much stronger and older than him, and he was also carrying a cutlass. The bully cornered the hitman and started calling him horrible things. As he was about to slit the young hitman's throat, the hitman had another thing up his sleeve, literally. He had a small dagger which was concealed under his sleeve, and he managed to have it so the blade was visible. He slammed his right arm into the bully's stomach with his dagger armed, and the bully fell to the floor and died slowly. Where others would have felt disgust and guilt, the hitman didn't feel anything, and from that moment on he lost his emotions and became cold and sinister. Overlooking the incident was a Falmor guard. The guard cautiously went up to the hitman and arrested him. He brought him to the Count of June and asked what should be done to the boy. The Count had another idea, and he decided to install him to his organisation. His organisation was actually a group of hitmen who worked and fought for the Falmor. The hitman decided that this would be good for him as he could start a new life and leave his old miserable one behind. And for the next 35 years, he killed in the name of the Old Merry Dominion during the Great War and many other political uprisings. He also killed many heads of opposing political figures who were threatening them. He didn't have much loyalty to the Old Merry Dominion though, but he had money in his pocket, and that's what mattered to him. His latest contract, however, was something so much more challenging than anything he had done before. His task was simple, apparently. Kill General Tullius and instigate a rebellion in Skyrim, and kill Emperor Titus Mede II. He wasn't phased though, and was up for the task. He then headed by ship to Solitude in order to start his mission. Now, in terms of role-playing, you have to have a certain characteristic to the hitman. He'll be calm. He'll also be quite cautious about what he does and his actions he takes, and he'll also be professional as he is an assassin and a hitman. He doesn't want to be easily found out of his actual roles, so you have to be very careful about what you do, so don't go killing people in public, don't go to prison and stuff. You have to be very professional, and the quest lines you'll do will have to be in this order. You'll do the Civil War quest line and fight for the Stormcloaks first, as that's what your first task is to do, is to kill General Tullius, and it's not going to be as easy as just walking into the castle down and stabbing him. You'll have to actually do the whole quest line. Next, you'll do the Dark Brotherhood questline, which is quite obvious as you're an assassin and that's who you're going to fight for, and this is how you're going to kill Emperor Titus Mede. You do not know this at first, but it seems as a good start, and it coincidentally ends up being how you're going to kill him. And finally, actually no, there is no finally, you can actually fight for Dawn Guard or the Vampires depending on if you want to be one of them, but it's not necessarily vital. Now on to the skills. Now, because we're using the Ordinator perk overhaul, it generally means you can't have as many skills because you'll have to use more perks in each tree, and around 20, which is quite a lot. And this means that we can only have 3 skills, and I managed to be level 55, well actually 56, but 55 perks, and it meant that you have to be quite high level character just to get 3 skills, so you can't be all jack of all trades character, so I just went for that. And the 3 skills I'm using is archery, sneak, and one-handed, so it's really typical, but it's just so effective because I really like this perk overhaul. Despite it can be really detailed sometimes, it makes the whole build more specific to the actual roles of the character. And later I'll go on with all the perks because I can't really go on them one by one because it's just so complicated, so I'm just going to show you later. But you'll be using archery to take out long distance targets. Now I'm using a mod called Scoped Bows of Skyrim, and this means that some bows have scopes on them. Now I just downloaded the ones where there's like additional scope bows. You can actually get a version of the mod where it replaces all bows with scopes, but I wouldn't recommend that because you might not like the scope. It's especially having E and B on, because if you have depth of field turned on, it means that sometimes you can't stabilize your bow properly and it starts blurring, but it's just something you have to get used to. But I like the scope bows, it's really good. I'll just go on to the mods whilst I'm onto it. You'll be not using immersive armors for once. You'll be using the Black Sacrament armor mod. I think it's called Arisa, the Black Sacrament, something. I can't remember off by heart, but basically it adds this thing called the Black Sacrament armor, which is incredible looking armor, and adds different variants of it. And this armor, you can choose whichever one you like. I just went with the unholy version, and I really like the look of it with the mask and the hood and the cowl. You can get other really cool things. So I would just experiment if I were you. It also has an option of replacing the Dark Brotherhood armor, which I'd strongly recommend because I hate the Dark Brotherhood armor in this game. It's not very nice. But also you'll be using the Immersive Weapons mod in order to get your Tantos and the Wakasashis, which are both kind of Japanese weapons, but you have the... Oh, it's peaky. You have the Tantos, which are Daedric variants, and you have the Wakasashis with Daedric variants, and you'll be dual wielding both of them. And also you'll be using a scoped ebony bow as your bow. Now the stat spread for this character is quite simply half health, half stamina. You won't be using any magicka obviously because you don't have any magical abilities. And you'll be using stamina to zoom in and do your silent rolls and generally get around the battlefield easily. You'll also be using health because you'll need to stay alive. You can actually fight with this assassin in open combat, which is something I don't really recommend for many of my assassin characters, but for this I would, because you have actually a lot of power, and also because of some of the perks you get from the Ordinator perk overhaul, it means you can fight quite nicely with dual wields. So I would recommend half health, half stamina. For standing stones, I would go for the Lord Stone or the Shadow Stone. No, Serpent Stone, sorry. Yeah, because for you, the Lord Stone gives you 50% additional armor points and 25% magical resistance, and the Serpent Stone gives you like poison thing. I can't remember off by heart. I'll put in like a annotation thing to get what it is. It's either Shadow or Serpent Stone, but one of them is what I use, and I just can't remember because I keep on getting confused with both of them. So yeah, those are the stones I would use. Now as you can see, I have got the perk tree up for you, and you can look at all the perks that I have. And I would, to start with one-handed, on the right side of the Ordinator thing you have the dual wield perks, and the most specific one about this is Bloodbath when you get to level 90, and this is when you go into a frenzy when you have basically dual wield attacks, and it's so OP for getting into open combat, which is something I would recommend. You also have a tree line for daggers now, a separate one, and this is good because you can specialise in daggers, but you also specialise in swords, and this is why I've been using Wakazashis and Tantos. And also you can see I don't go all the way up to the top with the sword ones. I just have about 4 perks, I think, 5 perks. I'm just showing the main ones, by the way. I'm not showing all of them. I'm just going to leave that to you, because these are just like all the good ones. I've just gone for you can't really go for everything because it's just become so many more perks and you have to be such a high level. So I've just gone up to level 56. And now onto bows. There's some really good things in these, such as throw the needle. This ignores enemy armor standing still, and you can get some really good add-on effects. You can move at full speed with the bow, it's quite normal. 5% faster, that's useful, very useful, especially when trying to dodge other people. You become quite undodgeable with this perk as the wind. The Hawk's Perch, that is well, as you can tell, it's just I use that a lot actually, especially when you're sneaking, because you stand still for a lot of the time, so it generally means you become quite powerful when sneaking and staying still. As you can see, the next one, Deadeye, every 4 fully drawn shot deals 100% more damage. That's just quite powerful, obviously. Perfect Draw, that is, well, I can't really keep up with all of them, but basically some of these are important and some of these are less important, but it's quite normal to pick perks which you don't really need. It's just you have to use them in order to get all the benefits. This is a good one, the Raven Snatch. You disarm people if you shoot them, and that's so useful against stronger enemies. I use that a lot. Quick Shot, Reload, that is almost like quick, I can't remember what it's called, the thing in COD where you switch your hands, but that is useful, especially drawing shots and pounding enemies because they stagger a lot. So when you can disarm someone and then they become staggered, so they can't really attack you ever again. So I really think the archery tree in the Ordinator perk overhaul is so much more improved. I would definitely recommend this. It's probably the best perk overhaul out of all of them, just because of archery. No, joking. There's actually really good mage ones as well, but I've gone for the archery one. I was actually not thinking of picking this at all, but then I saw some different reviews of the archery tree line in different mod reviews of this, and I have to admit it's so good. Tripwire, that is important, especially from just trapping enemies. They get tripped over every time they run onto this, and it's basically a hidden mine, and you can just pound enemies with your bow once they run into this. Yeah, you get extra 600 points. That can kill people. Like, you actually shoot someone straight after they've been hit and you just one-shot kill. It's so OP. Grease Lightning, I'll get onto that. Well, you'll look at it in a minute. Grease Lightning, that's basically, if you're in combat and you start rolling around, like if you don't have to be detected, just generally like you've shot someone, they're not dead yet, they could try and run in your direction and they'll just slip and slide. It's so funny. I didn't get any of this in the gameplay, but I always test my gameplay before I actually review it, so I managed to get some good shots and never managed to get one in a test run because it's just so hard actually. Assassin's Blade, deal 1% more. Oh, why don't I look at that? I should have got that. Never mind. Backstab, actually, that's more important. You deal 50% more damage with daggers when striking a target from behind. Yeah, basically the equivalent of the Assassin's Blade in the normal one, I think it's called. Grease Lightning, back, yeah, I just talked about that. That's really good. Now, anyways, that's about it for all the perks, I have to admit. I'm sorry, that was a really awful rush review of all of them, so excuse me for that. But I just like to say that was this build is so good. It's probably one of the favourite ones I've actually made. I just enjoyed the gameplay so much. It isn't different, let's say, but I used shouts such as slow time, which just makes the effect of being an assassin pounding your enemies with arrows much better. And I hope you managed to enjoy this very long build. Anyways, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. And I'll see you next week for another unmodded build. See ya.